As COVID-19 continues to ravage economies across the globe, the world is mourning the African hero, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Sheilah Ngetich.
And I am Apollo James. Our 30 minutes of the broadcast begins now. Talk to us via SMS 111 444 111. Let's begin.
And our starting point is in Africa, and to be specific, South Africa. Mourners are filing past the coffin of Archbishop Desmond Tutu as his body lies in state at St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town, South Africa.
Tutu, a Nobel Peace Prize winner who helped an apartheid in South Africa, died on Sunday aged 90. His official state funeral will be held on 1st January after the lying state period, allowing mourners to file past his body and say the final goodbyes.
In South Africa, the period when the body of Archbishop Desmond Tutu will lie in state at Cape Town's Anglican Cathedral has been extended until Friday. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has also announced that Tutu's Requiem Mass on Saturday will be a special official funeral Category 1. Meanwhile, preparations for the funeral continue at St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town.
It has been a day that has been anticipated, the passing of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Impilo Tutu. It has been anticipated for about 6 years, and there was what the Archbishop Thabo called the Impilo plan. So all the logistics that will lead up to what now will happen on Saturday, the Requiem Mass at 10. So this is his cathedral, and he embraced it as such. Throughout his term and beyond into his retirement years, until about 6 years ago, if not 4 years ago, he would, every Friday, with rare exception, preside and celebrate at the 7:15 Eucharist on a Friday morning. It is a place that is richly imbued with his presence.
Many in South Africa saw Archbishop Desmond Tutu as the country's moral conscience. Nobel Prize winner Archbishop Tutu died last Sunday. He was 90 years old.
Now, the annual natural gas output of Kalakeshan gas field in northwest China has hit a record high of 15 billion cubic meters, equivalent to 12 million tons of oil and gas.
The Kalakeshan gas field, the first gas field with a verified reserve of trillion cubic meters of natural gas in Tarim Basin, serves as a stable gas supplier for the country's 4,000 kilometers west to east gas pipeline.
The Kalakeshan gas field has developed and built 16 gas wells in 2021 with an additional daily output of 4.87 million tons. The cumulative output of natural gas in Kalakeshan gas field has exceeded 180 billion cubic meters since the gas field went into operation.
In February 2000, the State Council approved the West to East gas pipeline project and built the country's longest gas pipeline with the largest diameter, which starts from Lenan in the Tarim Basin in the west to Shanghai in the east.
During the development of the gas field, 5 wells with output exceeding 10 billion cubic meters were successively built. Among them, the cumulative production of the well with the highest output has exceeded 16 billion cubic meters, making it China's most productive gas well.
And away from that, a military tribunal in Cameroon this week sentenced 47 members of the opposition party to between 1 and 7 years in prison for insurgency and attempted rebellion.
Police arrested Cameroonian Resistance Movement, or MOC supporters in September 2020 while planning protests against the 40-year rule of President Paul Biya.
More than 20 supporters of the opposition Cameroonian MRC stand in front of MRC leader Maurice Kamato's house.
In Cameroon, 47 opposition activists of Maurice Kamto's party, MRC, have been sentenced to prison. The activists will serve between 1 and 7 years in jail for rebellion. The activists were arrested in September 2020 for planning peaceful marches against President Paul Biya, who has been in power for almost 4 decades. In the economic capital Douala, more than 500 demonstrators were arrested by the police last year. According to the opposition party, 124 are still behind bars. The spokesman and treasurer of the party received the longest sentences for rebellion and attempted insurrection. The opposition leader, Maurice Kanto, was imprisoned for 9 months in 2019 after having run against Paul Biya in the presidential elections in 2018.
Moving on, Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty by a U.S. jury of helping the late financier Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls.
Now, the 60-year-old was convicted on 5 of 6 counts and faces up to 65 years in prison.
British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted on federal charges Wednesday of luring underage girls to engage in sex acts with financier Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell was found guilty on 5 of 6 counts. She was accused of recruiting and grooming 4 teenagers for Epstein between 1994 and 2004. Epstein, her former boyfriend, killed himself in 2019 in a Manhattan jail cell while awaiting trial on sex abuse charges. Prosecutors said Maxwell was Epstein's partner in crime and that she knew exactly what she was doing.
One of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein.
Maxwell's attorneys argued she was being used as a scapegoat for Epstein and tried to discredit her accusers, saying their memories had been corrupted and that they were motivated by money. During the trial, jurors heard emotional and graphic testimony from 4 women, 2 of whom said they were 14 when Epstein began abusing them. One woman testified she had endured years of sexual abuse at Epstein's homes in New York, Florida, and New Mexico. She said sometimes the sex acts would involve Maxwell. Another woman testified that Epstein abused her more than 100 times starting in 2001. She told the jury that Maxwell would set up appointments for her to give Epstein massages, and the massages would become sexual. Maxwell faces up to 65 years in prison for the 5 charges.
Well, that story takes us to a short commercial break.
Stay put. And welcome back to the broadcast. I am Sheilah Ngetich.
And I'm Apollo James. Now, moving on to Russia, where Russia's Supreme Court has ruled that one of the country's oldest and most prominent human rights organizations should be shut down, a move that has stripped up public outrage.
This is the latest step in a months-long crackdown on rights activists, independent media and opposition supporters. Take a look.
Russia's Supreme Court ordered the country's oldest human rights group to disband on Tuesday for breaking a law requiring it to act as a foreign agent, capping a year of crackdowns on Kremlin critics, unseen since the Soviet era. The closure of Memorial International bookmarks a year in which Alexei Navalny, the Kremlin's top critic, was jailed, his movement banned, and many of his allies forced to flee. Moscow says it is simply enforcing laws to thwart extremism and shield the country from what it says is malign foreign influence. Critics say that Vladimir Putin, in power as president or prime minister since 1999, is turning back the clock to the Soviet era when there was zero tolerance of dissent. The Kremlin, at odds with the West on everything from Ukraine to Syria, says it is impossible to recreate the Soviet Union. The legal assault on Memorial, which documents and keeps alive the memory of Joseph Stalin's 1937 to 1938 Great Terror, among other episodes, is an attempt to whitewash Soviet Russia's darkest chapters, which do not align with the Kremlin's narrative of a resurgent country with nothing to be ashamed of, they say. The audience chanted "Shame, shame" after the verdict was read. Memorial lawyer Genry Reznik spoke to Reuters.
We disagree with the decision. We think it's illegal and unjustified. The claim was insolvent. But these kinds of cases have a powerful political motivation.
As the court heard the case against Memorial, which said it was a force for good even if it sometimes made minor bureaucratic errors, 4 policemen carried away a bearded protester after he shouted, "There are no laws, there is no private ownership." A state prosecutor told the court that Memorial had promoted what he called a false image of the USSR as a terrorist state and blackened the memory of the communist state's behavior during World War II. He said someone was paying Memorial for such treachery. The U.S. State Department on Tuesday condemned the Russian court decision.
And away from that, China will continue to stimulate the vitality of market entities in 2022 by stabilizing market order, promoting fair competition, and strengthening anti-monopoly and anti-unfair competition regulations. Take a look.
China released new regulations on the registration and administration of market entities on August 24 this year, unifying the registration and management systems of various market entities for the first time and providing legal guarantee for stimulating the innovation and entrepreneurship viability of market entities. Data from the administration show that the number of market entities of all types has exceeded 150 million in China, with around 70% of them running actively. In 2022, with the focus of promoting high-quality development and stabilize the economy and society, market regulators will improve policy accuracy and effectiveness to help market entities cope with pressure and better support their sound development while paying close attention to market entities' performance and needs, according to Zhang. We will continue to maintain a stable environment for the development of all market entities, create a stable, fair and just market order, and safeguard the bottom line of market regulation. At the same time, we will also spare no efforts to ensure the safety of food supplies and special equipment for the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics and Paralympics, as well as the safety and supply of COVID-19 vaccines. We will grasp the overall requirements of prioritizing stability while pursuing progress, adhere to systematic thinking and pragmatic action to ensure that the market supervision can be advanced in a steady way and achieve effective progress. Zhang also vowed to further implement the policies of fair competition, strengthen anti-monopoly and anti-unfair competition regulations, and better leverage the role of fair competition regulation in macroeconomic governance in 2022 by attaching equal importance to regulatory norms and promoting development. We will further improve regulations on fair competition, set up traffic lights for enterprises, competitive behaviors, clarify the bottom line on rules, and guide all types of capital and market entities to realize development and competition in an orderly and standardized way. In addition, we will also move forward to form regulatory synergy for coordinated supervision, promote the establishment of one-dimensional, multi-tiered, and three-dimensional supervision system, enhance our ability of regulating fair competition, and improve the systematic level of competition and regulation.
Now, a team of experts in maternal and child health has conducted free clinical programs in 14 prefectures of northwest China's autonomous region.
Over 30 experts from Xinjiang provided services and guidance for local hospitals, supporting them with monitoring programs for children and clinical diagnosis and treatment.
With the support of the professional team, many hospitals in Xinjiang, including the People's Hospital of the Shed Prefecture and the Maternal and Child Health Care Center of Kusha City in Aksu Prefecture, have organized various clinical services free of charge.
We have deployed over 2,000 experts to counties and cities in northern and southern Xinjiang to carry out training courses and provide guidance, improving the standardization and construction and management of maternal and child healthcare institutions, and providing further guarantee for the health of women and children of all ethnic groups in the area.
And now to a rather interesting story. When thieves stole 3 tons of oysters from French shellfish farmer Christophe Guinot, he came up with a solution.
And the solution is planting secret knots inside oyster shells to help police track down the thieves. And now, take a look.
French shellfish farmer Christophe Guinaud has a message for those looking to steal his oysters, and he puts it right inside the shell.
It has had a dissuasive effect. I think that over the past 5 to 6 years, there has been no new oyster thefts and no complaints filed.
While not as valuable as pearls, oysters are a high-end commodity when it comes to shellfish. A half dozen can fetch up to €24 or $27 at fancy restaurants, especially around the holidays when demand is high. Which is why thieves have been known to hop on a boat and steal them from the submerged metal cages in which they are raised. Guinaud's note, which he came up with in 2016 after thieves stole 3 tons of his oysters, is rolled up and put inside an empty shell, which is then glued back together and placed in a cage. The note tells whoever opens it that they have won their weight in oysters and invites them to call a phone number to claim their prize.
Voilà.
That person could then be asked where they bought the oyster, and if it was not from somewhere that Guinaud supplies, the sleuthing shellfish farmer could then set the police on the oyster thief's trail.
Thanks to the mandatory tracking of our shellfish, I will be able to find that rude person, whether he or she is a sea professional or not, who will have sold my oysters to a wholesaler, who will have then sold them to a fishmonger. And with the help of the Nautical Brigade and the Maritime Police, we will be able to catch, at least they will since it is their job, the person who steals from oyster farms.
Other shellfish farmers in southern France have mimicked Guinaud's methods to great effect. After 19 heists in 2017, there were none in 2020.
Now that story brings us to the end of this bulletin, and I'm gonna leave with a quote where everybody has difficult years, but a lot of time the difficult years end up being the greatest years of your whole entire life.
And after 1 year stint at Switch TV, finally we part ways. I hide my tears behind my smile, but most importantly, my heart will forever be grateful to your reception. I made my TV debut here and will definitely make my last bulletin here on Switch TV worthwhile. Thank you to all of you who made it possible. Hope to see you on the screens again on my next assignment. I'm not leaving this place with a lot of knowledge, but also with someone for you, my viewer. I leave you with this quote: year's end is neither an end nor a beginning, but with going on with all that wisdom that experience can instill in us. I've been your host, Sheilah Ngetich.
Now, from our stellar crew and I, from our directors, Lucy Kamaikai, from our producer, Robert Ouma, it's a goodbye, good evening, and always remember to keep it Switch Television. My name is Apollo James.